Sean here says, Carlos, did you step off the boat? No, this is a life preserver to keep me from drowning in Eric's mediocrity. Like, this is all I got. Like, I need whatever I could do to stay afloat. This is all I got.
Hello YouTube, welcome back to the channel. So it is the year-end video, and I'm recording this in the wee hours of Monday, December the 30th, which means I waited until basically the 11th hour to record this video because apparently I'm lazy. I appreciate when the theme of an entire year goes from beginning to end, so that's always nice. But I did want to make my year-end video. This is the last of the three year-in review videos, number 3, which is basically some thoughts on the previous year, and then kind of some plans and thoughts for going into the next year. So in this case, going into 2025, and kind of what I wanted to do. So it's kind of a recap of where the channel's been, and then some of the stuff that I want to do it with some clips played in between. So with that said, basically what it comes down to this year, and I think what I was thinking about when I was kind of going through all the different videos and kind of scanning through the list, I did that a little bit on the Friday live. So this is the last regular video. There will still be a single live stream left, which will be the New Year's Eve live stream, which has been the tradition the last several years. We're going to do that. So when I do my little runtime calculation, it's not going to include this video, which will not be included as part of it. And that last live stream will also be part of the 2024 playlist and runtime, actually, if we want to add into it, which is going to make it interesting. So I'll kind of tell you where things sit, basically, going out of this one. But the bottom line was that I think it was a fairly successful year. I will say, I think for the channel, for the most part, this channel, I think for the most part this year ended up being a lot of cruise control, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I think it worked out actually pretty well. Collecting-wise, things are pretty good, but they're also kind of on a little bit of a cruise control. Even when I went through the goals and went through a lot of that portion of it on the video, I did accomplish a lot of the goals that I wanted to accomplish, check some things off the checklist, but it didn't feel like it was a particularly busy year. And then that's actually showcased in terms of the number of videos on the channel. So starting off with that, this is going to be video number 159. And then the live stream itself is going to be 160. So that's actually the lowest output in several years. But what makes it interesting is that at the same time that that happened, one of the things I talked about in last year's year-end video, the same video that you're looking at right now, but last year's version, I actually talked about wanting to take some of the wrestling stuff and moving it onto its own channel. So what I did is I rebranded the second YouTube channel that I had, and I actually put videos on there, and that was successful. I actually ended up having, I think as it stands right now, I've got 38 videos from this year on that channel. So even though this year, this channel was a little bit quieter in terms of that, going from just shy of 200 to going to 160 by the time this is all said and done, I've added almost 40 videos over there. So if you add that in, we're pushing 200. And then you add in the videos, the podcasts, and the live streams that I did with AMG on that channel, well then I'm pushing past comfortably 250. So reality is, content-wise, in terms of videos and things, this year's actually been the busiest year I've ever had. But on this channel, it's felt a little bit quieter. Because for the most part, most weeks has been two things. The Friday Live, and then the podcast. So it's been fairly consistent that both of those have gone on, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. But it is kind of interesting. One other thing that actually kind of struck me is even though, again, I'm not counting this video yet into this runtime, and I'm not counting the live stream, which will run for a few hours, at least in the year 2024, this year, the channel, as it stands right now, not counting those two things, the runtime is actually the highest runtime that I can remember on this channel ever. So this channel right now, if you were to hit a playlist, and I do actually have a 2024 video playlist for the whole year, if you were to run the playlist would run for 13 days, 22 hours, 39 minutes, and 37 seconds. So by the time this video is done, that will push us well into 13 days and 23 hours, and then the live stream should take us comfortably over 14 days of runtime. So if you got a 2-week vacation coming up, I've got a 2024 playlist. You're welcome to play it. You know, awake or asleep, you can just run all the way through. Just make sure to hit the like button every single time so that Eric pays for it. That's important. Just make sure you do that. So I can literally cover a 2-week vacation this year in terms of videos on the channel, and that's with less videos. So what does that tell you? Anyway. So one of the things that kind of struck me, and I was going to do the little recap thing. I've got a couple of them. I've actually got the list of videos in front of me here so that I can look at it. For the most part, as I said, it was kind of cruise control. And the reason I say that is because I'm just looking at it, and there wasn't a lot of news stuff that really struck me this year. And one of the rules I kind of made for myself personally was that I wasn't going to make a standalone video for something unless I really thought that I could add a little bit more to it. And the fact that I had the podcast, and the podcast was consistent throughout the whole course of this year. If you don't check out the podcast, I would recommend it to you. I do actually have a playlist specifically for it. That is where myself, Brandon, Baubles and Ball Cards, and then Eric will be 5% more mature than we are on the live stream. You know, got to have a little bit of a standards to it. And there is a little bit of a structure to it. So we do have our silly card of the week, and we've got a couple of things related to it. But then sometimes when there's some news items, that's where they'll get dropped. Or maybe there's a more philosophical discussion that we want to have. That's where I end up putting that. The Friday Live is a little bit more of a free-for-all thing. And I'll get into kind of where I see that going into 2025 in a couple minutes. But what I wanted to say about that is I think I'm going to keep both of those things. The Friday is the flagship. The live stream is basically the main thing that I do. But one of the things that I want to make sure I keep doing is the podcast, which I think that has added a certain thing to it because it gives me a place to drop off a lot of these little news stories where maybe it doesn't feel like it warrants a whole standalone video. But then I can talk about it for a segment on the podcast, and then there you go. And then if there's more to say, then we can talk about it on the Friday Live, and we're covered. It's only the rare occasion now where I think it warrants a standalone video, if it's something really kind of timely and maybe I want to add in my 2 cents. But for the most part, I really haven't felt the need to do that. And that has actually resulted in some of the cut down in the number of videos this year. But I think it's worked actually pretty well. I think the combination of those 2 things have actually been pretty solid. Now, just scrolling through a little bit, I'm just looking at, like I said, the list of videos right now off screen here. One of the things that I'm going to continue and I'm going to bring back into the new year, so right at the beginning of the new year, is going to be the watch-alongs for a couple of the football games. So I'll pick some of the select playoff games. The Packers are in the playoffs. It might be a one and done for them, though. I watched the game earlier tonight against Minnesota. I wasn't super impressed. The first half was very brutal. And the second half was better, but, you know, they're still not winning against these quality opponents. But teams are supposed to beat, they beat. But you never know. It's the playoffs. It's a one-and-done kind of situation. Anything can happen. So regardless, I think there'll be at least one watch-along with whatever the Packer game ends up being, whatever matchup they end up getting into it. So we may end up doing that. I'll kind of see how the timing works out, but that's something I enjoy doing. So I'll definitely see if that's a possibility. I'd love to have that incorporated into the channel in this upcoming year. And that'll be only weeks away from where I'm recording this video right now. Now, one of the things I wanted to scan through is, like I said, news-wise, there wasn't a lot this past year, especially compared to previous years. Although there was at least like one decent news story every single month, more or less, is kind of what it worked out to. We went through it on the Friday Live. And the fact that I cut out the wrestling stuff and put it onto its own channel, I think also cut down on a number of videos, as I mentioned. But one of the things that I think I'm going to continue in the year is kind of keeping a lot of the same cadence. I'm really going to be picky about what items I'm going to fixate on, because a lot of the stuff, honestly, I don't care about it that much. And that's something I've known for a while. But I think this year I was very good about being disciplined enough to just not bother with it. Some of those videos probably would have done pretty well. But it's one of those things where I think the channel is basically where it's at now. There is certainly the possibility that something may stand out, something may go, you know, viral in terms of the niche concept we're talking about here, but realistic, I don't expect anything wacky to happen on the channel for it to grow and expand much beyond where it is right now. This is kind of where it is. So expending a bunch of extra energy trying to chase some views here and there probably isn't going to make a lot of sense for me. It's not something I particularly wanted to do this past year, and it's not something I see myself doing next year. And I'll touch on one thing related to that here in a second, but that's, I think, the key thing that's running what I'm thinking about for the channel going into next year is that I want to keep the idea that I'm not going to really chase anything. I'll just kind of go with what interests me. And that's always going to be a little bit limiting because the more salacious things, the more clickbaity things are always going to do well. But it's one of those things where I can't feign the interest in it. And if it doesn't come off as genuine, if the interest isn't there, it's going to come across in the video, or it's going to come across in the podcast episode or whatever, because it's going to sound like I don't care because I don't care. It's the same thing with a lot of the card stuff. I could do more videos where I showcase cards and things, and I enjoy the cards, but it's one of those things where I enjoy the projects themselves. The enjoyment I get is from finding the things and acquiring them. It's the hunt for it that is interesting to me. Once I get it in hand, I don't need to wax poetic about it. So again, there are folks that do that really well, and they actually, their enthusiasm comes across. So I kind of want to leave that for them, because I really do think they're better at it. And it's the same reason I don't do a lot of box breaks. I'll do a little bit on the wrestling channel just because I enjoy opening those boxes. But even then, if I could pull a great card, I'm not going to sit there and like do backflips, and it's not going to come across like that because it wouldn't be genuine. Which is actually kind of funny. I've gotten some comments on that one where it's like, you should be more excited. It's like, I like that I pulled the card, but it's one of those things where, you know, it's not a life-changing thing for me. It's more I do it for fun, and if I pull something cool, then I think that's awesome, and I've had a lot of fun, and I've had some good luck with some of those boxes. But it's I'd rather just be accurate to what my real reaction is, in that sense. And the same thing with a lot of these hobby stories. A lot of them I just don't have the same interest. So what that leads me to, and I was just in scanning through what last year's stuff was, or this year's stuff was, one of the ones that has been a bit of a staple on the channel the last couple of years. And I was watching a live stream on the For Collectors channel. So Dan from Dan's Vintage Baseball PC, I think I got that sequencing right. So Dan's Vintage Baseball PC was doing a live stream. And indirectly they brought up the infamous YouTube Sports Card Hall of Fame. Which is always kind of a little fun. It's a piece on the YouTube content calendar, praise the content gods, that I always have as part of the channel. And I will guarantee you that I will continue to do my tireless coverage of this oh so important thing. But I will say one thing that I'm not going to be doing this year, and I was thinking about it before this, but the fact they brought it up and my name came up as part of that conversation. was I kind of laughed because Dylan Double D Vintage Baseball Cards actually mentioned that, I said I don't really want people to vote for me. That's actually a fairly accurate summation. Really what it comes down to is I don't care about it. It's just not something that interests me. I've always thought it was silly. I feel I've made that very clear. And even the last couple of years where I've done the little voting video, I've been very tongue-in-cheek in the way I've done it. I've come up with a couple of little clever ways to kind of keep it interesting for myself and entertain myself with it. But then last year, being able to pull off the long con on it was actually really fun. But the thing is, and I made the joke at the end of it that I said, well, I'm out of gimmicks. I'm going to have to come up with another gimmick. And as we kind of approach it this year, it hasn't been announced yet. So right now, I'm just speaking about something that hasn't even happened yet. But I just want to kind of get it out there ahead of time. And it may be disappointing to some. But the reality of it is that I had some ideas of stuff I could do with it. But part of the joke has been that I've poked fun at it. Even in the video where I do the voting on it, I come up with something silly. And I came up with a couple of ideas that could have worked, but a lot of them would require some planning and doing this and doing that. And I'm just sitting there and I kind of asked myself, and this conversation I had with myself weeks ago, where I just said, okay, like, do I even want to expend this much energy even into poking fun at it at this point? And the issue that I kind of had with it is it's kind of run its course. Realistically, I would recommend if somebody wants to participate in it, by all means, please do. And if you're enthusiastic about it, by all means, be enthusiastic about it. I've kind of played along in the sense that I've, tried to show appreciation to folks that have taken the time to vote for the channel. But the truth is, it doesn't mean anything to me. The actual thing, the fact that people take time to consider the channel or say nice things about it, that is very nice. But the rest of it, I really don't care about it. I couldn't possibly care less. So the reality is, even playing along, I'm kind of helping out something that I don't believe in, something that I don't really see as valuable or beneficial. And at the same time, I'm also participating in something where it's like, I don't really want to. And it's kind of the same vein as kind of that theme of the way this year has gone, where I'm still doing the stuff that I really want to do, but it just meant a little bit less energy has been exerted into it. Although I do have some things that I do, there are elements where I do want to renew my energy and in 2025 push forward a little bit more and do a better job of it. But when it comes to this particular piece, I'm just going to be very content in that I've done what I can. I've come up with the little ideas and gimmicks that I've been able to come up with, but I think it's run its course for me. I don't have anything else. My creative juices are not going to be used up on this anymore. So this year, I'm not even going to bother. I'm not even going to play along. It's one of those things where, you do you, whatever you want to do. If you want to vote for the channel, I appreciate it. If you don't, then that's fine too. If you want to save the spot for somebody else, apparently there's a million channels that are going to hit the qualification for it, go for it. Do whatever you're going to do. I'm not going to worry about it. If there's a controversy or something, though, I reserve the right to poke fun at it on the live stream, and I will. Because that portion of it, I'm still invested in. The rest of it, no, I'm good. I feel like it's run its course. I think we've had enough. So I think as far as this channel is concerned, we are out. I abstain. But good luck to the rest of you if and when that comes up, whenever that happens. Obviously, there'll have to be an announcement video on the rest of it, but that'll be one video that I won't be making on this channel in 2025. Now, moving forward, there's a lot of stuff here that a lot of it, honestly, is just repetition. It's a lot of the same stuff before, and I think that kind of played into the way that the channel actually played into it. Obviously, the CT scanner thing was a thing for a while. I suspect it will continue to be a thing as people kind of get, they renew their outrage about it every time something kind of comes up with it. It feels like it's a lot of same. It's one of those things where the average consumer, the average collector is not really going to be affected by it. If you're a singles buyer, you don't really care. People can CT scan every single box in creation. It's just going to be whatever. I think that's going to be the case for a lot of folks. Obviously, though, some folks who are concerned about any boxes they have or the potential value of unopened boxes they have, it's going to be a very big deal. Either new or old cards, there is a big deal when you remove the possibility of chance, where it feels like the game is fixed and rigged against you, then that's where there will be a dampening in enthusiasm for those categories. So that is always going to be hurtful. That is always going to be just a reality of it. So I don't disagree with any of that. I think it's one of those things where it is significant. It is something worthwhile keeping in the front of your mind and bringing up from time to time where it's appropriate. But it's not something I'm going to fixate on because it doesn't affect me day to day. And I don't think it affects most hobbyists day to day. And that's kind of one of the big news stories that kind of played along. The only other one that was kind of fun for me channel-wise was the whole interview with Brian Gray. And that came about as a result of going through his conversation with Bill Mastro, doing a recap on that. So if stuff like that happens, I can pretty much guarantee you that I'll probably do some kind of a reaction video to it. I do enjoy doing those, but I'm very, very careful and very specific about when I take my time to do that. because it's gotta be worthwhile. I gotta feel like I can add something to it, or at least have some fun with it. And if I can find something like that again, then I will not hesitate to do so. But that was one that actually worked out quite well. It was that's why I say, like, we were missing out. We didn't have any major hobby documentaries that I could make fun of. That wasn't a thing. Even I was able to do a book report on the Mike Kramer book. That was fun, but that was good for a Friday Live. So I think a lot of that stuff's going to end up on the podcast or the Friday Live. And I think that's really where I expect a lot of it to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push it to a couple of clips here. I don't remember how many exactly. I do want to mention, though, I'll do this quickly. I want to thank everybody who did come on the channel at some point during the year to participate. I didn't bother to compile a whole list of folks. I know that some of the people from previous years were able to join us for certain episodes. I was able to go on some other folks' channels and participate, which is always a lot of fun. Appreciate that. I'm always open to it if that's something that you'd like to reach out and talk to me about. That's fine. But then the other portion of it that I also want to make sure I thank is I want to thank, the Burrell, the Garage of Knowledge, Bougie Eric and his eminently mockable self, Brad Harlan, of course, Yannick, of course, and Bobbles for Bobbles Ball Cards, and everybody else who participated in the channel regularly. So I appreciate all of you for playing different roles, whatever the case may be, and for Eric for paying for the like button. We always appreciate that. That is a big thing we appreciate more than anything else. But I'll send it to a couple of clips that were a lot of fun from this year, and then I'll spend a couple of minutes talking about finishing off the thought about what I think is going to happen with 2025. I mentioned a couple of things, but then there's a couple more things that I want to make sure I mention before we close out this video for 2024.
As Carlos stated, the thoughts and the mentions on the National isn't to persuade anyone from not going. In fact, if you've never been, I would recommend at least going once.
Unless, hold on, Brandon, I'm going to make one caveat. Unless you're already on the way to the National, and for some reason you're listening to this, and somehow we've convinced you to turn the car around, in which case, fuck yes!
Yes.
Yes!
Yeah, I mean,
let's go!
If that's your choice, and we are...
Brandon, I want that kind of power.
Hashtag
I want that
influencer.
kind of power. We got a football expert who's going to join us. So, Eric, I hope you're a football expert, because Lord knows you're not a hockey expert, and you basically don't know anything about anything. So what is it you've got, your great football insight?
I never would have guessed Detroit would be dominating like this at halftime. Things are not clicking. So unless Shanahan has got some kind of magic pill, I see things continuing to go the way they are, because Detroit has their number, and they got them totally in control in all aspects of the game. So unless some drastic changes are made at halftime, I don't see why Detroit would start allowing 49ers to creep back in.
And now you guys know this is the same voice that brought you the Toronto Maple Leaf fandom, the Florida Panthers fandom, and a lot of other fandoms that worked out tremendously well in previous utterances.
I don't remember those.
A few moments later.
Here's Purdy with a lot of time. Steps into one. Launching deep, going for Brandon Ayuk. It is. Oh, he caught it off the ricochet. Penalty. Is he in?
Hit him right in the face mask. And then, man, give credit there to Brandon Ayuk just staying with the play. And
here is Gibbs. Up the middle, he runs into the wall. And the ball came out. Ball is loose. Who's got it? 49ers recover. They give it to Montgomery. He is swarmed.
Even if you don't score a touchdown and you get stopped, you take the 3 and still stop the clock.
Badgley gets into it high in the right. It's loose. Ball is loose. Kittle's going to pick it up. And that'll be that. And there it is. The 49ers are going to the Super Bowl.
And,
Yes.
Carlos, hey, it's the hardcore legend Mick Foley. I know I don't know you, but can I ask you a favor? Can you do something about this guy? Get him away from me. What a pain in the... Yeah, you know what I'm saying. Just do something. Thanks.
We're a little news light. But...
Did you get my text?
Did you send me a text?
A couple of seconds ago.
No, that's highly inappropriate. That's incredibly like that. That's just Eric. That'll get you canceled. Like I don't even want to repeat the words that were written. Brandon, I can't believe this.
I didn't get it.
Like no, you didn't.
Listen, we will never speak of this again. Ever. Never. Look, I'm going to ignore what Eric wrote. I'm going to ignore what Eric wrote, and I'm going to talk about AMG. I don't care what you wrote. I'm not even going to discuss it. We're not talking about it.
Okay.
We're not talking about it. And hope that no one ever finds out.
I hope you didn't screenshot that, right? You deleted it.
Just saying. But hashtag content, Victor. So I'm just telling you. Don't tell the audience. Don't tell them. But literally, I just did this because we couldn't come up with a single decent idea. Like not one. Like we were just completely out of ideas. Like we were devoid. It was like It was we were looking at Eric, and then Eric had that blank stare on his face, like he usually does. Like there was nothing there. It was blank. There's nothing.
And we
So
knew
just,
he could
I'll
talk
screw it.
about
We'll do it
Marcel
live. Who
for
cares?
At least
Who cares? We'll do
30
it live.
minutes.
Victor, you
That
should try
happens
that.
when you go live. It does. You have
You should try
moments
that,
like
Victor.
that.
If you ever run out of ideas for a video, just go randomly live for no reason. Just be like, yeah, we're doing it. This is live episode. But be clear, you have to be sure off the top, make sure you're clear. I'm doing this intentionally. This is exactly what I planned. There was no spontaneity to it at all. This is greatly considered and pre-planned, scripted right down to the last syllable.
Love it.
What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to adjust the format. So first of all, I don't even say what we're going to talk about because I have an idea of the first couple of things. And after that, we'll see what happens. And in that effect, what I'm going to do right now, Eric, is I'm going to thank AMG Collectibles. Say the AMG Collectibles YouTube channel. I'm going to do it right now. And I'm going to say thank you for supporting this podcast and the live stream and the YouTube channel. And also our condolences. And also I apologize. I'm sorry. And also I accept no responsibility and all the responsibility for everything that's about to occur.
To AMG, I just want to say it was nice working with you.
With the point, Eric, I'm covering all the angles. I'm taking no responsibility.
Nice working with
all
you.
Responsibility. I am apologizing for nothing, and I am also apologizing for everything.
Yeah.
In advance, I am doing all of these things. Listen, Eric, I am not a religious man, but in the last segment, which I'm going to call Jesus Take the Wheel, we're going to find out. We're all going to find out. Eric, we're going to learn today.
Right now, we're trying because we're friends with Nick Foligno.
Again, Bobby, this is like the lamest name drop. The name is because we're friends with Nick Foligno. Everybody who doesn't watch hockey is like, "Who the fuck is Nick Foligno?"
Well,
Zach says, "Is knowing this Nick guy a flex?" He thinks it is. Thinks it is.
I used to flex years ago on the rare occasion I'd meet somebody, but now
after multiple injuries.
Now that I am so entwined
$6 million man
with all of these hockey players from past and present, and they all consider me a dear friend, of course. You know,
why does he always make it weird? Why does he
then-
always make it weird?
I don't need to flex anymore because it's just part of my life. I'm just telling you about my day. Okay. Now, when I was younger and I meet someone, I'd try to work it into conversations and all that. But you know, now it's just I'm just telling you about my day.
You know, Bobby, I had to be a Flexy McFlexerson over there. I remember once upon a time, young impressionable Eric, who sat there like at the behest. He literally came on bended knee once upon a time, showing deference to the bro. Once upon a time, like he knew no one. No one knew who he was. Now he's like, he thinks he's Mr. Big Shot. Mr. Creepy Little Man who's like, oh, I know Nick Foligno. Oh, Marcel Dion hasn't set security on me in like weeks. We're good. We're best friends now. We're good. It's like we're best buddies. It's like, listen, at a certain point, it's not even Stockholm syndrome. It's more like, you know what? It is going to cost me billions of dollars. I'm going to need all the Connor Bedards to be able to afford the round-the-clock security to keep this sick freak away from me. I may as well just play along and hope he goes away on his own.
Okay, so real quick, we'll finish off with a couple of thoughts on basically the bottom line on 2024. Successful year, I think, for the most part. The channel, I think, is settled into kind of where it's at. Bottom line on that is that I don't intend to reinvent the wheel here. I'm not going to completely shake the snow globe. The podcast episodes are going to continue. I think they've served a very good purpose, and I think they've given me a good spot for a landing spot for certain things that I want to do on the channel. I will continue the Friday Lives. It is the flagship. That's going to continue, and hopefully I'll be able to invite some other folks, some folks that we haven't seen in a while, and some folks maybe brand new, and we'll try to introduce some cast of characters into that. I think that'll be a lot of fun. That'll add something to it. And I'm going to mention here, because I think it's worthwhile, it's not going to be for everyone. I understand it's a long episode and everything, and it's one of those things where you can watch it in pieces or just tune in and tune out, depending on what works for you. It's one of those things where it's a hangout, because I'm literally there with my beer in hand, indulging in my beverage, and basically just BSing with a couple of friends and associates. So it's one of those things where whatever structure it has is almost by accident. It's generally speaking, I might come to the table with a couple of things, but for the most part, it's kind of like whatever it's going to be. But it's not going to be for everyone. If you're looking for somebody to get outraged about every hobby ill in the world, I'm probably not your guy. And that's okay. There are plenty of other spots that can take care of that for you. So I would always recommend to people, gravitate towards what fulfills what you need. If you need information, then maybe certain channels will work for you. If you need, opinion in this, certain channels may work for you. If you're looking for outrage, certain channels may work for you. This probably won't be one of them. And that's just the way it's always been. And I expect that'll be the way that'll continue, because that's the way that I run myself in the hobby. I just don't get outraged about a lot of the stuff because a lot of that stuff doesn't affect me enough to be worth getting mad about. So why would I spend time getting mad, pretending to get mad about something that I'm clearly not mad about? Now, with that said, I did manage last year to accomplish one of the things that I said I wanted to do, which was to spend a little bit more energy and move videos over into the wrestling card channel, which I did. And I was able to have some success with that, and I think some of that stuff worked out. So I want to keep that. That's going to be the spot for that stuff. But then for stuff related to the card hobby, that's going to stay here. But one of the things that I do want to get back into doing a little bit more is going to be inviting some folks to have some of those collector conversations. I like having those. I think they're a good way to get one-on-one conversation, chat through certain things specifically, and maybe incorporate some of that into the podcast as well. I've got an idea of how I could do that, but it's something I got to flesh out a little bit more. But that's basically where my head's at. I want to do a little bit more of that in 2025 to add another thing to the channel, and then maybe go back. I've got a small stack of some tough stuffs and some of those. I want to get through some of those magazines and go through them a little bit and do a little recap, take you a little time capsule back in time to show you what people were talking about, hobbyists were talking about during those time periods, especially in the 90s. And for some folks, it may be illuminating to realize that a lot of the same complaints that are happening right now are very much the complaints that were happening back then. That's why it's always a little bit funny to me, what's old is new. It's been one of the themes of the channel, what's old is new. And these things always come around again. And if you're around long enough, you will see the cycle, and it will play out over and over and over, and people will get upset. Everything's too expensive, the hobby is ruined, and if I had $1 for every time the hobby's been ruined, I would be in a palatial estate right now, in a very warm place, not in a place where I need to wear layers, probably. But anyway, I expect a lot more of the kind of conversations I think will be incorporated into it. I want to get some of those folks involved in it and invite them to discuss some of these different things. And then the Friday Live, like I said, will continue to be the flagship. It will continue to be a hangout where we chat on the card hobby, yes, but then also other things. And it's one of those things where, if you want to participate in the chat, you're more than welcome to. It helps because it also adds a little bit. The interaction is kind of what makes it a little bit more fun. But at the same time, if you want to listen to it passively, that's okay too. Just make sure you hit the like button so Eric pays for it. So with that said, that is it for me. Recapping 2024. If I have any clips left over, I will play them at the end. Otherwise, I wish you the best for your New Year's. Hopefully you enjoy responsibly, and then hopefully we'll see you in 2025 and beyond. Thanks very much. Like if you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and we will see you in 2025.
Victor, I have a question for you. You're a well-respected YouTuber.
The setup. Oh no.
Oh yeah,
no.
yeah.
No.
Here it comes.
No. You're a well-respected YouTuber. You've made your YouTube career out of providing information to people and intelligent information and educating people. Why would you want to ruin all that by coming onto this dumbass
Eric, that doesn't sound very man of peace.
No,
I'm just not feeling like Brent.
You have a book coming out. It's like
I actually, to answer your question, Eric, I actually have a lot of appreciation for this show because Carlos was one of the first channels that gave me a shout out when I started like 4 years ago. And and then I started tuning in, and I actually love what you guys are hilarious, man. I just put you on and I start puddling here with cards or something and crack up at the silliness of it all. And it's a great show.
So
Eric,
this is top tier stuff here, man. You don't get this.
Look, Eric, Eric, you know what? Victor's making some solid points. Why don't you go make your rebuttal?
I'm
sorry. Your audio cut out. That's awful. I'm sure it was a very well thought out and considered rebuttal. That is such a shame. Such shame. Oh, Victor, this is tragic. I'm sure it was going to be articulate. I was sure it was going to be like brilliant. It was going to be his idiot savant moment. He was going to be like, "Oh, guys, I'm going to give you the formula. I'm going to give you the whole thing." It was going to be crazy.
That's what happens when you provoke the man of peace.
Mm-hmm. So we're logging in. Brandon is there. I'm there. And then Eric's there. And we can see him and we can hear him. As obnoxious and annoying as this man is. We can hear this guy. But he's like, I can't see myself. I can't see myself. The camera's not working. It's like, we can see you. We can hear you. I literally sent him an image. It's like, we can see you. We can hear you. You're fine. He goes, no, I got to see myself. I got to be able to angle myself for the camera and be able to find the exact spot and the perfect angle. The lighting must be exact. This diva just will not quit. It's relentless. We're going to start calling him A-Raj over
This
here.
is
Jesus.
100% facts. And
Good Lord.
I wish
like, what do
this
you-
was being 5% less mature or 50% less mature. but
I am
no.
speaking truths. I am speaking nothing but truths. Wow.
I don't. Do you consider yourself a watchdog, Carlos?
I consider myself a man of peace. That's what I consider myself. That's what I tell myself every day, Victor. I look in the mirror, man of peace. That guy. Man, that guy. Eric, commence the War and Peace. Begin.
War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy, Book 1, 1805, Chapter 1. Well, Prince, so Genoa and Luca are now family.
Hope you fully enjoyed that. We'll be back on Friday for the regular live stream. The longest running episodic, whatever it is, I still don't know. Maybe Victor's rookie card thing. Maybe we could run it through Victor's rookie card filter and we could figure out what the hell it is. I still don't know. I don't know what it is. I don't even, never mind.